Okay, I think we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is Sandy Chaikin, and this is my first ever inner circle. So we're going to test out this concept. Would love, love, love your feedback at the end of the half hour. Anything pro or con. And if this resonates with you all, we'll be doing this a lot more. For those of you on today, you were the early adopters here from my webinar last week and signed up to be a member of Chaikin Analytics, which is awesome. This will really help you get up and running. And the purpose of all of this is to get you more familiar with Chaikin, how I use it to make money, and hopefully how you can borrow some of these ideas to make better investments yourself. Okay, so session number 1 is how do I find a good stock? I'm doing everything live on the Chaikin Analytics platform, and I'm showing you my stock list right now. And the way I look and identify a winning stock is by what we call a classic bull characteristic. So if you download the book, Chris has put the link in your chat window. So if you haven't already done so, just download the book, the workbook. And we're going to start on page 6, which is 4 tips on what to buy, a classic bull checklist. And let's run that checklist parameters on AMAT, Applied Materials, which you can see up here on the screen. So let me get my little annotation thing going here. First thing to look at is power gauge. And I do this periodically with my own stocks to make sure they're still within the framework of a classic bull, because if they start breaking down, then I've got to look at whether it's something I want to hold or get out of. But let's evaluate a classic bull on a stock that I own, which is Applied Materials here. You can see power gauge rating at the bottom, turned bullish probably late February. A lot of stocks turned neutral in early February with that 10% correction, so this is kind of not relevant. But you can see it's gone from bullish to neutral pretty much for the last year or so. So I'm good with this stock. It's got strong relative strength. That's another classic bull requirement. It's got money coming into it. That's here, showing you institutions are buying this stock, which is good. Follow the money. And you can see that the price is trending up by this orange line. This is a 200-day moving average. If you're going to buy a stock, this is what you want to look for. All of these things lining up. Okay, so how do I find these stocks in the first place? Let's go into my methodology. There's a couple different ways. The first one I'm going to show you is to follow Mark. I mean, Mark is the expert. He's been on Wall Street 40, 50 years, stock market guru, basically. So follow Mark. I take no pride of ownership of finding stocks on my own. If Mark can find them, that's great. So what I've done is I've created a list that I call Market Insight. Oh, let me get out of my annotation here. Clear my drawing. Okay, there we go. What I've done is I create lists, and then I can scroll through these lists. So what I did with Mark's Market Insights, which is the report that he issues every Sunday, and let me go up and show you how I find that. I go up to that little kind of light bulb thing, and you can see it pops open a window, Chaikin Market Insights from Sunday. Scrolling down here, and this is really valuable content, you all, so I hope you read this very carefully when you get it Sunday night before Monday's open. Let me go back up here again. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, so let's go into Sunday's report. And in it, he has a screener and some ideas, stock ideas. Right here. Okay, so what Mark is saying is he's using a screener to identify high-quality large-cap stocks that are currently trading below their 21-day average price, which means they're kind of on sale right now. This is an excellent watch list to find bargains if the downside volatility continues. Terrific. Okay, so what I did is I used his screener parameters, and I'll show you how I did that, to plug in the S&P 500 large cap stocks, bullish power gauge rating, and a price below a 21-day moving average. And he got 23 stocks, including favorites NVIDIA, Chaikin favorites Boeing, which I own, JP Morgan Chase, which I own, Michael Kors, which I own, and T. Rowe Price, which is now on my watch list. Monitor these stocks in Chaikin for short-term buy signals. Okay, so how do you do that? All right, let's get out of Market Insights. Go up to Screener, upper left-hand corner. Click on Screener. Now, I have saved Mark's criteria to a folder. And you can see my stock screen folders up here in the top left. And you can see it's actually already on this. But if it weren't already on Market Insights, I would go into Load Screen and then hit this. Load. So this puts in Mark's parameters, S&P 500, bullish power gauge rating. These are the factors he wanted to be bullish: free cash flow, price to sales, price to book. And he wanted it to be below the 21-day moving average. Hit screen. And you can see I get a list of, it's 18. It'll change slightly each day. So from here, so I've taken a list of 5,000 stocks in the universe. Immediately I'm down now to like 18 or so. I go up here to Save List. And since I've already saved it, I'm going to go back to my workspace to show you where I would find that. Under my user lists, March 5th, Market Insights, right? So I'm going to get out of my stock list now and go into Mark's screener. This is the way directly I would get here if I just hit Save List from the screener, go right to here and save the list. As you see, it's already done in this column here, this index column on the left. All right, so now I've got these 18 or so stock ideas. So now what do? Well, I scroll through them and I highlight ones that I feel have strong potential and move them over into a watch list. So my working lists every day are something that we call my stock list right here. And then my watch list. And my watch list is simply that. It's stocks that I'm interested in, haven't bought, but am interested in buying at some point in time, or just want to watch them, make sure things still hold up. That classic bull pattern still holds up. So I literally just flip through them like this. Going to Bank of America. Okay, so what I'm looking for is that classic bull setup. I like to put on my watch list stocks that have a pretty consistent trend line, like you see here: consistent power gauge rating, persistent relative strength, and good money flow. If this were any other stock other than Bank of America, I would put this on my list, but it's just my personal thing. I'm personally biased against these big banks because of all the havoc they caused in 2008-09. So that's just my personal thing. But otherwise, that stock would have gone on my list. This would not, okay? I know instantly looking at this, money flow is not strong enough. It's had this persistent pattern of kind of bearishness. I want money flow to be strong before I get anything onto my list. So I'm going to quickly go into the next one, which is Express Scripts. Now, everything is kind of volatile back here in February. As you remember, February 6th, February 9th, and January 30th, this whole period in here was really volatile. That's when there was all that uncertainty in the market and everything kind of went down. But you can see this stock, power gauge rating, relative strength, and money flow didn't change, which is really a strong telling that this stock has a lot of strong potential. So I put this on my watch list. The way I do that, go up to Express Scripts up here, add to list, and then I just scroll down to my watch list. It's already on there, so I'm not going to do that again, but that's how I simply add it. Once it's on my watch list, then if it has a bullish or a very bullish rating, I will scroll through it every day to see if something has changed. This stock right now is oversold. Remember, one of the parameters I rely heavily on for timing when to buy and sell is this overbought, oversold. Let me highlight that for you. Drawing. And you can see right now, this is the zigzag pattern that follows the price trend of a stock. No stock goes straight up or down. It kind of zigzags across, sideways, up, down. It's now zigzagging up, which means you want to wait for that pullback coming back down below, into this 30 level here before you buy it. And they inevitably do that. All right, let me clear my drawing. And get out of there. Oops. Get out of there. Okay, and then I just simply scroll through the rest of them. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's 18 and I want to move on to another list. But I will scroll ahead to T. Rowe Price. This one I did put on my list. Can any of you look at this and see why? Really strong, right? Going back to July or June, strong power gauge rating. Look what happens when relative strength and money flow and a strong power gauge all come together. This stock just starts taking off in July and has gone up, 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 up. Everything pulled back here, February, but again, it went back up again. So this is a great stock for me to watch. Again, I want to wait for it to pull back, though. If you go back to, let me draw that again for you. If you go back to the overbought, oversold, you can see, again, this is overbought as well. And so I'm going to wait for that to pull back a little bit, as it inevitably will do. But that's what I look for. Let me get out of here. Clear, clear. Let's hop on to Boeing. I will point out a few. Boeing I already own. So I don't need to look at this again. But you can, I bought it on these pullbacks, back in February and most recently last week, just a couple days ago with the announcement of the tariffs on aluminum and steel, and it had a pullback. So these are great buying opportunities. Watch for this volatility, and when you see stocks pulling back like that and on the news, it's just a news thing. It's a panic thing. People panic, they sell. Use that as a buying opportunity, which is exactly what I've done. Even though it was overbought, it pulled back nicely on those few days. So sometimes you have to kind of override that when you get a really bold opportunity like we did the other day. Let's jump ahead to NVIDIA because that I added to my watch list as well. I might as well leave that overbought, oversold there. You can see this one is pulling back. And you can see again, it has a nice pattern. And the power gauge has turned bullish and everything else is bullish. But you can see even with a neutral power gauge, this stock had a very nice trend line. So I'm going to jump to another list. But that's basically what I look for, a nice trend like this. Okay, so how else do I get my stock ideas other than through Mark's Market Insights? Well, I do my own screener. Let's go back to the screener. Go back into my saved lists. So into load screen. Here's my criteria for a bullish stock. Strongest industry groups, price to sales, short interest, insiders strong, money flow, and relative strength. So these are the parameters basically of that classic bull pattern. Hit screen. So immediately I take a universe of 5,000 and I get now what, 7 stocks? 7 stocks, which is cool. So up here, save list. I'm going to hop back to where I've already saved it. Here's Sandy's list, 3518. I did this yesterday. And here again, I've got these 7 stocks. So now I can scroll through these and pick up any ideas that might be advantageous. Well, I've kind of missed the boat on this one. I would not have bought this. Straight lining, neutral, negative, negative. This is not a stock I would have ever bought, but they did obviously come out with a great earnings report and spiked way up, but too late right now to buy it. Since there's only 7 or 8 in here, let's just quickly go through these. This, again, I don't like the money flow or the relative strength. Heidrick and Struggles. That's a nice looking chart. That's not bad. A lot of zigzagging around though, as opposed to think of that Boeing one that has such a smooth ride up. This is a little bit too erratic for me as well. Too much up, down, as opposed to a smoother trend line. Not long enough with good money flowing relative strength. Now this one has a buy signal on it. I have an oversold buy signal on it. So what I would do here is go into the buy signals and say, okay, well, how did it do on previous oversold buys? And you can see here that kind of, they were okay, but this stock has kind of gone on a straight line. So again, this is not that appealing to me. So I'm going to pass on that. This one recently had an oversold buy. It had February 26th, just last week, oversold. But I'm not liking this whole trend. Too much red, not enough green. This one's interesting. It's a pretty solid trend line, but not long enough green, right? Just since February, but everything did line up nicely. They report May 14th. I did add this to my watch list, and I'll watch this. And if it continues to have a lot of green going into its earnings report, then that's a really good candidate to buy before May 14th. RST. Now, this one reports tomorrow. You can see right up here, reports tomorrow. There tends to be a lot of volatility around earnings reports. Can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. So let's delve into this a little bit deeper. I'm going to clear that out. And I would do that by going way over here. This gives me the drop down. menu for the power gauge rating. Because this is reporting earnings tomorrow, I want to know what the earnings component says, and it's not good. It's very bearish, right? So, not a great forecast going into earnings. So I would not buy this. Now, if the earnings component were bullish and you had these, moving into the bullish camps instead of neutral to bearish, that would be something that I would probably buy before they reported tomorrow after the close. That's how I would evaluate that. And the last stock on this list is the steel. I'm not interested in this. We have to have a year's data before we have a power gauge report, a power gauge rating rather. And this just started here in March, so it's just over a year old. But you can see the rest of it just isn't strong enough to appeal to me. So that's how I would pretty quickly go through, create a screener, go through a screener, get the ideas, and put them on my watch list. So here's the watch list. And this is like over years, actually. But I basically don't clean it out because I really only look at the ones that are bullish or very bullish. That's really only the types of stocks I'm interested in investing in. So the first thing I do every day when I go into my watch list is I say, well, tell me what the signals are. What's happening? Go up to this little alert view, the bell, click on that. And here is like an executive summary. I've got 3 buy signals, and I've got some power gauges that have gone from neutral to bullish. Often I get estimate revisions as well. I've gotten them here on the downside of these stocks. But let's go into, say, Mylan, drug stock. Drugs are a very strong industry group right now. Let's look at this relative strength breakout, because I often buy from those triggers. Once those alerts view tell me, hey, now might be a really good time, I go check it out, and if everything else lines up, it's a good buy candidate. Okay, what are we seeing here? Okay, for me, this doesn't reach my criteria. It's not a classic bull because it has very negative money flow. So even though everything else is green, I want to wait for money to get stronger, even though I'm getting a breakout buy signal. I do like to overlay the current signal to see where it has triggered previously and if it in fact was good. They work 70% of the time. Nothing works 100% of the time. So you got to go on the averages and also go on the pattern. That's why I overlay them. All right, so I'm going to pass on this. I'm not going to buy this. Let's look at Skyworks. That triggered a buy signal as well. This also was a relative strength breakout. Am I interested in buying this? No, not at all. It's too much red, and I like green to be persistent, as it was back here. I made a lot of money on this stock back in 2014-15. I think it paid for one of our trips abroad, just this one stock. But not doing it. They provide chips for Apple, and this is just not. It's not lining up. So that's pretty much how I find bullish stocks. How I sort through them every day. What I did back in early or late February rather, or no, sorry, early February, I created what I call a short watch list. Let's look at that. And these were the stocks that I thought like a month ago, I really want to buy these. We were anticipating all sorts of volatility. You can see I made this list back February 5th. There's all that volatility, the 5th, 6th, 9th, etc., all in this time frame around here. So I said, geez, if I can get some of these stocks on sale, these are my highest priority. And let's look at that. Lazard, I did not buy. And now I'm saying I'm not so sure about that because it's trending down now. This is not a stock I want to buy right now. So this would not be on my list today. Raymond James. Let's take a look at that. How does this look? This looks pretty good. I put it on my list back in February. Yeah, right about in here when it had pulled back to 89. It's now 94, which is okay, but a little neutral here. Before I buy this, I want to make sure this power gauge rating persists, and I want more money flow in it. AbbVie. This is a great stock, very strong stock. Jim Cramer is always talking about it. I put a limited order in February 6th for 102, and I snagged it. That was a really good opportunity there. Would I still buy this more today? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to wait for that money flow to get positive and for it to come down a bit to be oversold. But this is a stock that I'd like to get more shares of than what I already own. Boeing. I mean, this is beautiful, right? This is one of the best stocks performance of 2017. And this is where you want to buy it, on these pullbacks here, you know. And we've had recently some nice pullbacks, as I pointed out earlier. JP Morgan, I own this. I bought this on the pullback as well. Look at these nice pullbacks in here. But see, everything's green. So because it pulled back, there's no panic because there's nothing to panic about. Everything's green. This is a great stock. It has great potential to outperform the market by all the green showing up here. So a pullback is seen as an opportunity, not as a, oh my God, it's dropping. It's dropping only because the market is reacting and people are emotional. So use that emotional exuberance and selling to your advantage. As Warren Buffett says, you want to be greedy when others are selling and buy when others are panicking and sell when others are anyway, you want to do the flip. So if people are selling, you want to buy it, which you can see down here would have been a really good opportunity. And I did buy this stock right down here at 60. So that is my methodology. This is what I do. And I pretty much run through my stock list and my watch list every morning before the open and every afternoon after the close, and just flip through them. And because and particularly this short watch list, and because I'm only interested in stocks that are bullish or very bullish, if I'm going to be buying them, that watch list gets truncated because I don't waste time going through neutrals and bearish stocks. Okay, so let's look at some questions you all have, because I'm happy to take questions. We have a few more minutes left. 12:29. I don't see anything in the chat view, but if any of you do have questions, please call them out right now.
Sandy, we do have a question about APO.
APO, okay. Thank you. Let's get APO in here. APO. What's my view of APO? Is that the question?
How do you feel about APO now?
Okay. APO is a stock that I own. I bought it, I think it was back in here in December. I own it now. It's gone neutral. Relative strength has just ticked negative, but there's still money coming in. So this is something I am watching. Let's drill down on the power gauge rating. Really strong earnings component, which is great. How are the financials? They've got a lot of cash, good price to sales. That's good. Earnings, I think we just did, is excellent. Technicals, strong money flow relative to its industry group. This is strong money flow relative to the industry. So it's looking pretty good, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of negatives insiders are not buying it, but the short sellers aren't shorting it either. So I'm in a hold pattern on this. I'll watch it. I hope that relative strength turns positive again, but it's not something I would buy right now. But since I own it, I'm just going to hold it and watch it. Are there any other questions?
And we also have a question, do you only purchase the shares or do you also trade options?
For me, my methodology goes with shares. We have a lot of members who are options traders, and we have several options experts here who train our members on how to use options play. So you're welcome to register for those presentations. I think they're Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe, at 2:00, I believe. But it's in, if you go into your member, where is that member only resources? Yeah, members only sessions. You can see what's coming up. And here you go, options. So you can look at these videos here, or you can reserve the next one, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 Eastern. So if you want to, if you're trading options, want to use the options play overlay, which is integrated with Chaikin, just go right here, reserve your spot, and you'll get the login credentials. So again, go to this members only panel up here on the top right of the workstation. Where was it? Here, product resources, that little stack of books. Great. Well, I think we're just about 12:30. If there are no more questions, I would say...
We do have one more question.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to stay
if you
on.
had to buy one stock today, what would it be?
One stock today. Well, I'm so picky about having things line up, but let's go into my short list again. Let's see if Boeing has pulled back. Boeing's down a little bit today, 347. See, I need them to pull back a little bit more than where they are today. So I'm not sure I would buy any of these today, and these are on my short list. I want to wait for them to pull back and get oversold because they're now kind of zigging up instead of down. So I'm going to wait for the next Trump announcement of tariffs or trade wars or whatever he's thinking, and wait for the market to react to that. You don't have to, as Mark says, you don't have to chase a stock. You know, so wait for the stock to come to you. Wait for that perfect setup to show itself, and the overbought, oversold to be trending down. You don't have to buy anything just because it's today. So that would be my comment to that, to your question. All right, is that it? Chris, if there's no more questions, I guess we will say till the next time. So tune in next week, same time, and we'll do a different topic to follow. But again, I really encourage you to send me an email, sandy@chaikinanalytics.com. Let me know your feedback on these sessions, if they're useful or not, and if you've got any comments, pro or con. As I say, this is a test. This is a test scenario, so we're open to all suggestions, and we do listen to our member feedback. So we will listen to you. All right, great. Chris, thank you, and thank you all for attending, and I will see you next Tuesday.